Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am really excited today to introduce those of you who don't know her, but after this, you will want to know more about her. One of our National Network for Justice members, Ms. Pauline Rogers. Hi, and how are you today?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you.
So, Pauline and her husband, Frederick, are the founders of the Reaching and Educating for Community Hope Foundation, REACH, providing transitional housing and reintegration services to the formerly incarcerated. REACH's mission is to help individuals and families impacted by crime and incarceration. Their vision is a thriving and sustainable community inclusive of individuals impacted by crime and incarceration. And recently, Pauline was named Mississippi's 2021 Remarkable Woman winner. So I'm really excited to have conversation with Ms. Rogers because I met her when NNJ went to Mississippi. This was 2019, and had the opportunity to meet with her. And she sat in on our sessions, and then soon thereafter became a member of NNJ. So, Pauline, thank you for being here today. Prior to us coming on, we were talking about everything going on in the country. It is Thursday, April 16th, April 15th. And we've had some serious things happen around our country. We've had, unfortunately, there's been attacks on Asian Americans in this country because of the pandemic that we're facing, and people blaming Asians for it, which is crazy. And we've had, unfortunately, another police shooting of a young man and in Minnesota, and we are in the middle of the Chauvin trial, who's a police officer who has been charged with killing George Floyd last year. So there's been a lot going on in the community, but I wanted to take really time out to try to talk to a lot of our members about the work that they're doing and how they are dealing with and coping with everything that's going on, and still maintaining the work that they were doing prior to us being in a pandemic and having racial reckoning happen around the country. So with that, I welcome Pauline. So, Pauline, what I'd like you to do is talk a little bit about the Reach Foundation first.
Thank you, Angeline, for having me. The REACH Foundation is, like you said, Reaching and Educating for Community Hope. We use the acronyms RECH, pronounced REACH, and we are in an organization that helps individuals and families impacted by crime and incarceration. And the goal is to see those individuals and families in a sustained, thriving community that's inclusive of them, where everybody looks like the same person on the same side of the track. So that's our goal, and we offer services to everyone that's impacted by crime, whether that's on the victim end or the children of the incarcerated. So we just well-rounded, or the schizophrenic, sometimes I say, in this work, because there is 30 something years ago being in this work, we had to touch all areas of it. So we just, our hands is in a little bit of everything.
So we were able to, my other colleague and I, Essie Mathis, were able to visit uh, the facility that you house women who are coming home, and we were just in awe because on a beautiful, I don't know how many acres of land it is on, but you have housing for people that, they go into a nice room with beds, and they have, linens and everything that they could possibly need. And so how did this happen? How did you find this location? How did you just decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, I was one of those people that I seek out to serve. I was one, and is in getting in this work, I didn't seek it out to do necessarily on the magnitude of what I'm doing now. I started out with simply to save myself, and saving myself was, I heard women who had been locked up with mom and grandma, or siblings were locked up together, or best friends, and some of them had been there, had been to prison more than one time, repeat offenders. And they would tell me, it's tough out there. You can't get a job, da 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 da. All the barriers that were set against us. And so I started out with just to make sure that I could survive and sustain and maintain and keep myself when I got out of prison. So having done that, although I was sitting down writing a vision while I was inside of prison, I got out and put those applications to work for me, and then starting to put legs to them. And fast forward, and 30 something years later, we're on a 27-acre reentry campus, not fully developed yet, but we have three homes that are on the 27 acre, two of them operable. Um, and that's how we got into this work, because there were people on the beds in prison that had made parole but simply couldn't get out because they did not have a verifiable address.
Mhm. And it's important to note that if you are formerly incarcerated, that there are certain things you just have to have when you're going to your parole probation officer.
Yes,
You need to have an address, you need to have
yes,
your identification and all of these things in place. And so your work is helping women get to that point where they are sustainable and they're able to function.
yes. And we did this out of pocket because that many years ago, this topic was not on the forefront like it is now. So I had to work, fend for myself. No people would look at you like you just got out of prison, and it was like some of the looks was, and who let you out? And so we had churches, individuals who took an interest in myself, took an interest in what I was doing and how I was trying to rebuild myself and support it. And those churches that supported, I stayed connected with those churches who helped us many times over the years to be where we are. So it started with, out of your pocket, somebody giving you $1 here, 5, 10, 20 here, 100 here occasionally. And we would add to that, working, we did it out of pocket is
Mhm.
how we got here, out of pocket. And because I didn't have children, I could do more out of pocket because I had no responsibilities in terms of a mouth to feed or somebody that was dependent on me. Because I didn't go back when I got out of prison in the hometown that I was born and raised in. I relocated, and that relocation helped me to stay better focused on me and not be concerned about other people other than me. Um, and so that's how we got started. And having met you um, years, what, 29, 2018, 2019 ago, and sharing the work, I had the opportunity with NNJ to go to California to see work that was similar to ours and connected with that work, and am even more structured now than I was 30 something years ago, with
Mhm.
making sure that, all of your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed. So it's just phenomenal, even now, what's been going on 30 years, because I see it even in a more excellent way. Stuff that we were trying to start years ago, there are people outside of my rural Jim Crow Mississippi town, back in the woods, not up to date yet in a lot of areas, and a lot of policies, procedures, and protocols and practices that people all over this country are doing that phenomenal work. And so we're just connecting with people who are doing it in order that we can do it even in a more excellent way and do more of it. And then develop disciples who can do it even beyond us.
Right. No, I think that that is really important that you are making that distinction that when you started 30 years ago, there wasn't an infrastructure set up and there weren't a lot of people talking about the reentry model of how do you help people come home? How do you help them reintegrate into society? And there were groups that were trying to do it, but it's now much more
Yes,
wide wide wider known, I guess,
yes,
that there's foundations that know, there's private entities that are aware, churches that are aware that it's important to help people when they come home because they're coming home to nothing, right? And
that's
so
right.
you were able to go to California, and Susan Burton's has been doing amazing work around this as
Yeah,
long as many other people in in ensuring that women and men who come home have a stable place to come home to and
Right.
have some support system set up so that they can thrive, so that we're not setting people up for failure.
Right.
So I love that model. I've loved you, wanting to do for people, you've done for yourself, and you want to do for people. And I think that's really admirable, which is why I think one of the reasons why you were named Mississippi's 2021 Remarkable Women Winner. So tell us a little bit about that.
Look, I was shocked. I had two women that reached out to me that told me about, I didn't even know about the Remarkable Women platform. And two women reached out to me, wanted to nominate me. And I said, sure, thank you. I was honored and touched. Well, when I got the call about uh, the nomination to, be at the news station, the lady that nominated me was not the one that had reached out to me. So that was just, I was honored, touched. But for me, it was more than a win for me. It was a win for the southern state of Mississippi, in that we're so behind on so many areas, and this work needs to be on the forefront even more in this state. And so that's what the win was more about for me, is that Mississippi is finally getting, although it's with 30 something years behind, but better late than never.
They're trying to get there, and
We're
with
trying
your
to
help
get there.
they'll get there, because I know you push and you make sure that your voice is heard, and those folks who's coming home, their voices are heard, and those kids' voices are heard.
Yeah.
You did a lot during the pandemic when we first shut down. Your organization was still doing a lot of things to support families. So could you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what you all did during our our unfortunate lockdown that we started probably in March of 2020?
Well, it was kind of an eerie feeling. We had years prior, a couple of years prior to the pandemic, we had been given this enormous donation of PPE gear. We gave PPE gear away years prior to the pandemic, but we kept some. And my husband was like, "Well, why are you keeping this?" I was like, "I don't know. We just not. We just gonna keep. We gotta keep some. We gotta keep a couple pallets of it." Well, when the pandemic hit, I still had forgotten about it. And then all of a sudden it was recalled to me. So we had stored in one of our storage units this PPE gear. And a lot of the hospitals and places were short. So we were able to give out PPE gear, masks, the coverings, cape coverings to hospitals, private clinics, and to some of the churches who were on the front lines trying to serve. And we made sure that we had enough for all of the residents that was in the house, and an overflow of that. And everybody that came out, we had sufficient. And so we were able to do that. And food boxes, personal hygiene supplies, sanitizer. We were just able to be like a first responder, if you will,
Mhm.
when the pandemic hit. And we were thankful that we were in that position to do that.
Some of the other things that you were doing, it was collecting school supplies for young
Oh, yes.
kids
Yeah.
whose parents were incarcerated.
Yes. What,
And
right. Because children don't understand that you're in a crisis. I can remember growing up on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Excuse me. Hurricane season was every year. Well, we thought it was a big deal, mom cooking up all the food in the freezer and we get to go to a shelter. We thought that was something, didn't know the danger that we were facing. And so it was like that for us with the pandemic, to make sure that the children were still feeling like children during the pandemic, that they got their school supplies that they would normally get from us, that they got Valentine treats that they normally get from us, and the back to school bash. We were able to do our summer camps, although summer camp this past summer was quite different because we had to do everything virtually. We did two camps, but not more than 25 people before they put the limit on it. So we had like 325 people camps because you couldn't get them together. But we did them outside. We didn't do any night camps. We did all day camp. And so we were just glad to be able to do that. And then this Easter, we were able to do the Easter outreach to the children. And we had one of the medical or pharmaceutical companies, nursing, a lot of different doctors that have their organization that partner with us that helped us do Easter this year.
It's absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
I'm in awe when I look on Facebook and I see everything that you're posting that you guys are doing. I'm like, they're doing a lot. Like when they said shut it down, for me, I shut it down, right? I was not out there, putting myself at risk, but you guys were still doing the work. And I'm just so happy to see that our members, they don't stop. They just keep going.
Well, we have leaders like you who really the knowledge that our leaders put in our laps. Then the challenge becomes, what do you do with the knowledge that have been placed in your lap, but to do it in a safe, healthy, non-harmful, non-risk taking way. And so that's what we had to figure out. Organizing still needed to happen because the problems that impact the incarcerated and formerly incarcerated is different. If we don't fend for one another, there's nothing that's organized and set aside for us when we come out or when our children have needs. If you're not in an organization, or not necessarily an organization, but in an arena where that can be uplifted, then you get left out and you get harmed even further if there's nothing that's created for you. And so we felt like we had to be there. And believe me, we had to be there. There were families that had no resources. Everything was shut down.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think that the work that you all did was just admirable, that you were able to still get donations from places and
Mhm.
still be able to support families, because you're right, everything was shut down and there was no way to get meals to people. I remember in the beginning when schools were saying, well, we're going to have, lunches for people so they could just come by and pick up lunches, at the school. But there were some people who couldn't get to the school to get
Right,
the lunch, right? And
right,
so lunches were going bad because they didn't have the transportation. There were no school buses taking the kids back and forth. And so even though there were a lot of people trying to help, there still was this void that existed because people couldn't get to the school to pick up the lunches. But you guys were in the community, making sure that the communities were being served.
right. And it was easier for us because prior to the pandemic, we are a specialty partner and an adopted organization of our public schools, because that's where the children with incarcerated parents attend school. They can't afford private school. So they are in these public schools. And we were on the front lines with the public schools helping, sometimes to serve meals, get meals to them. And we had meals that were delivered to us to get to the children and families. So it was a blessing for us as well as the children.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about the volunteers and all of the folks that actually give you items. You've created this amazing network of people who are donating items to you, who are coming to volunteer
Mhm.
to put together the packages for families. Talk a little bit about just how you were able to corral all of these different entities that just know, okay, we could give this to reach, so you talk about a palette of personal protective gear. You have a palette of personal protective gear when our government couldn't even get protective gear to hospitals. So talk a little bit about how you created the network of people who are donating and who know about reach and want to give and support.
Well, I just think it's been being the example over the years, Angeline, with people seeing that what they put in our hand it actually left our hands and went into the hands of the people that needed it. And so I just believe that over the years, people haven't seen that, whether it was a dollar store, an individual, or whatever, said, here, give it to them, and they will do it. And having done that over the years since 2005, this country's largest humanitarian organization, World Vision, became our biggest, donor of in-kind goods. Because I was doing Hurricane Katrina was so massive, we stayed in shelter mode for 1 year, and people told us you can't do a shelter for 1 year. I said, well, what do you do? People are homeless all year. I said, we will do a shelter for as long as people need sheltering. And this was we had just relocated to another city, and we got hooked up with World Vision at that time. And 20 something years later, we're still with them, and they have brought in other organizations and brought us to the table with other organizations and companies who are seeking to give goods, whether that's one time. And we have companies now that reach out to us that tell us, if you can come get the product, you can get it all over. I mean, Baltimore, Maryland, all over the country that reach out to us. So one of these days, I'm hoping that we own our own 18-wheeler or a couple of fleet trucks that we can go to these places and be able to get supplies and
Mhm.
have a big warehouse that we can have the warehouse, employ people that come out of prison to run the warehouse, that my hands is not in it, that they can do and provide these services on a daily basis, and not when an event occurs or a disaster strike, but meet the disaster for whenever the disaster strike, whether that's a one-person disaster or 100-person disaster, that we will be able to meet needs on a daily basis for people that need the product or services that we can provide.
And I think that what you just said there in terms of you're hoping to get, a large truck where you're able to do this work and talk to other people about the work that you're doing and try to get that support. That's part of what the network is, right? It's
Yeah.
just trying to figure out how do we connect people who have, if someone has the goods and someone has a truck, how do we connect them? So hearing that from you, I'm able to now look at the network and say, okay, who might we be able to reach out to that would be able to help you in terms of getting goods from one location to the next, right? Even though all communities are in need, how do we
Yeah.
help you so that you can expand your reach in terms of helping communities? And I
Mhm.
think that that is one of the things that NNJ brings is the ability to connect people and for
Oh
people to
yeah.
network and make those connections. So talk a little bit about how you've been able, you talked about being able to go to California, but any other connections that you've made being a NNJ member, any other connections that you've made with people just in terms of support, just like if you need moral support or financial support or reaching out to people that you know are there for you because you were there in Mississippi when we came. And I just have to say this, when we came to Mississippi, it was so funny. You reached out to me and I don't even know how we got connected, but you reached out to me and you were concerned that there was a group of people in Mississippi that we were having a meeting with. And I remember explaining to you, no, these are people that are coming from all over. We just wanted to come to Mississippi because we wanted to be in the community. And you were more than welcome to come to the meeting. And you came and you saw and you were like, you're in. So I want to thank you for thank you for that. But I thought it was like you just took the initiative and said, you know what, you're coming to Mississippi. Who are you? And I think that that is a very valid question for people
Mhm.
who have been on the ground in any community. And you have someone coming in, you want to make sure that that person comes in and they know what's going on, that they're
Mhm.
not coming in there to muck anything up that you've already tried to do or you've already accomplished. And so I think we just developed that rapport from the very beginning, that I was like, no, we're not coming here to take over anything. We just came to Mississippi to meet.
Mhm.
And you are more than welcome to come to our meeting. So talk a little bit about the network and who you've been able to talk to and meet and network with and learn from.
Look, having come in this network, sitting in that room, in fact, I cannot recall a person that sit in that room that the majority of them that I'm not in contact with, and that they're not a support system from the day that I met you until the current day. NNJ, your leadership extended my hands. extended my legs, enlarged my feet, uh, lifted my voice, lifted the sound of my voice through the voices of the people that I met in that room, you being one of them. That's how I got to California. That is how our work that we decided, because I know what reentry should look like, what it should feel like, what it should do, and what it should not do. And when I went to California, it was everything and some that we were already doing, and that I was like, no brainer. I mean, it was just easy to become a member of the Safe House Network with Susan, because that's exactly what we were doing. Um, Giving people a nice, beautiful place to stay, and then having um, uh, Pamela Wynn, who did on the federal level the laws with no shackling. Well, just this legislative session in Mississippi, we got a House Bill 196 passed by Representative Bain that, implemented that same law. And I was glad to be a member of an organization that she is the member of, that now the leg of her work has now extended into Mississippi and is now law. Uh, and Latanya Tate, who is now in Birmingham, Alabama, who is running currently for councilwoman in her state. And I was like, well, it's a no-brainer. Not only if she win, would it be a win for Birmingham, but her win would be a win for justice, period. Because she wouldn't be just about justice for Birmingham. It would be about her voice being about justice for everywhere she would speak. So having sit at the table with NNJ and your leadership, and then Essie, who is phenomenal. When the mask first went out and they said we didn't have to wear the disposable ones, you could wear cloth ones. And I found out my sister Essie was making masks. I reached out to Essie to make me some masks and had her to, ship them to me. I paid and had her to ship them to me. So that network and being able to support a sister in the work that she does and in the business that she and services that she provides has just been an extension for us. And it's like planting seeds all over the world. Being in NNJ, I'm planted all over because I'm planted in one, and that one takes the voice, the legs and feet and hands of us all over. So I'm just thankful for being a member and having sat in that room a couple of years ago with NNJ. Even Marissa Alexander over in Florida. We stay in touch. So just phenomenal people who was incarcerated just for shooting uh, in the air, didn't shoot anybody, and was a licensed gun owner,
Mhm,
stand your ground law. And
mhm,
it did work for her.
mhm.
So just having, being at the table with people like that is just phenomenal.
And being at the table, that is what is so important, right?
Yeah.
For any of us to have our voices heard. And I so appreciate having your voice there at the table as someone who is from Mississippi, and you were on the ground and you were able to interject things that were happening on the ground there. One of the other things that I'm really appreciative of is during, and this may have been right before COVID, but there were a series of prisoners that had died in custody, and it was just happening so much. And I was, reading all of your post about, well, this person died today. Mississippi's had X number of prisoners that have died, and then when COVID hit, it just became even more
Mhm.
um, unbearable to think about the numbers of people who were dying incarcerated, while being incarcerated in the prisons. And you made sure that you kept that forefront. You made sure that the country knew what was going on in Mississippi.
Mhm.
And one of the other things, and you could talk about both of these, is you had mentioned that you had sent Mother's and Father's Day cards out
Mhm.
people, and you had all of the names of the people who were incarcerated in Mississippi. And I said, who does that? Who has, how do you get all the names? And you had them, and you were going to make sure that those folks got Mother's Day and Father's Day cards. So I just think that that is just a testament to the type of person you and your husband are, because you're both working this foundation. So talk a little bit about that outreach, that direct outreach to the prison community, and making sure that their voices are not forgotten and their names are not forgotten.
Oh, well, I knew, having lived in prison, the importance of hearing your name called. It meant somebody had you on their mind. It meant somebody cared. And that piece of mail is more than just a piece of mail to a prisoner. It's a visit. It's a mail visit, MAIL visit. And I know the importance of that. And that MAIL visit sometimes lasts with you longer than that physical visit, because people will lay in the bed and read that same letter day after day, night after night. I was one of them. And I knew the importance of having that piece of mail right next to me. It's like having a bed mate or a bunk mate. Not necessarily a bed in terms of husband, wife, but you got somebody near to you. That letter keeps you company. It visits you. And we coming on Mother's Day again, and we will do it again. We've been doing it for all these years now, and this year will be no different. Uh, in fact, Susan is sending us some slippers, the ones that are network members, that we will be able to give the women that are housed in the house for Mother's Day. She got a donation of slippers. But we had NNJ last year that helped us with, I don't remember if it was Father's Day or Mother's Day card or both,
I think it
that
was. I think we helped with Father's Day.
was
Yes.
Father's Day, where we sent out all of those cards with NNJ, and I'm telling you, we got tons of letters that we get back that of the appreciation. So we would do that again, but we keep up with them because over the years, having done this, if you got a life sentence or if you on death row in Mississippi, you're still there unless a miracle has occurred. Life is life if it's life without parole. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have kept up with those, and we have books in here, just like a book you pick up and read, a tangible booklet where every person, man and woman, that has a life sentence or life without parole in the state of Mississippi. And I'm getting ready to be very aggressive in my state. I'm going to buy, if I have to buy the whole newspaper or 2 pages in the newspaper, and start printing out these names and who they are and what their crime is and how long they've been incarcerated. Sometimes people have to see, and sometimes it's difficult to get on people's schedule, or they don't consider you significant enough to get on their schedule. We got a guy serving a life sentence without the eligibility of parole, and his crime is a peeping Tom. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, well, who was he trying to peep at? The queen of it. Come on. Then another guy, attempted burglary. I don't know if it says attempted burglary, attempted robbery, serving a life sentence. So it makes you, well, what was he trying to steal? Air Force One? We have got to back up. We have got to halt and take a look at what exists now. How can we make it right now and move forward in confidence that for some success in this work of criminal justice, and taking off the criminal injustice. But I also was in the prison um, on April the 8th, and talking to people that, the gangs, which and all the people who continue to do crime, even while they're incarcerated, and tell them we have got to cease and desist from the violence inside prison to make the people on the outside feel safe by letting the people on the inside come home. People want to feel safe, but if you keep hearing in the news all of the violence in the prison, they want to throw the book at you. Now that shouldn't be the equation for sending people to prison or not letting people come out, but that's some of the equation, and just trying to change some of that so that we can get people home. But this work and what NNJ does, and the work that God has put in our hands to do, is needed and necessary. And like right now, the voting thing is another big issue. You know, Mississippi has a lifetime voting ban. And you can only get your rights restored if you go through a governor, depending on what the crime is. And if you don't fit the uh, crimes that keep you from voting now, you know, the disenfranchisement crimes that keep you from voting. Because right now, you know, if you got a punishment when you leave, you forever you forever punished when you leave prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probation, parole. So we got a lot of work to do in this state, you know, um, to get to where we need to be in this work.
So now that the governor knows who you are, do you have his ear? Are you planning to get his ear?
I plan to get his ear, and it's like it's not even my plan. I can't. I'm saying it like that, but I don't mean it like that. I think the Lord has a plan. I know He does. The Lord has a plan for me to be at the seat next to this governor. I'm what reentry look like. It's what you wanted, and you cannot continue funding these organizations that have been funded in this state 30, 40, and longer years, and still no result. I am a result, and my result is not a result of these organizations that have poured into me. It's been a result of a mandate from God that have put, and me applying myself, that we have got to look at it a different way. So I do plan on being at the table with him. So put that on your prayer list. Those of you that are listening, if you can get me at the seat with the governor of the state of Mississippi, I need to be at the table with the governor.
I'm convinced you're going to be there. I'm convinced you're going to get there. So,
We more alike than different. We
yeah,
want the same thing. We want safe community. We want the same thing.
yeah, yeah. So, talking about safe communities, you have had, I don't know how many people have come through your reentry center and have thrived and succeeded. How have you done it? How have you, I mean, you have been able to ensure that people come into the facility, they stay safe, and they don't go back, right? They don't go back into the system. What is it? What do you think is the linchpin that gets people to that point where they don't? Is it the support that you're giving them? Is it their own I guess consciousness about not wanting to go back in? What is it? What's the secret sauce?
The secret sauce is not a secret. The Lord being at the top, number one. Number two is we're just a resource. We're a listening ear. We're an extended hand. We're arms of embrace. And what we do is, I have to credit the people that haven't gone back, that it was their decision, not ours. We were just a support system. We gave them somewhere decent to sleep, good food to eat, and we did not treat them like they were coming out of prison. I don't care if people come out of prison and ever eat breakfast. I just don't. If you don't want to eat breakfast, we don't have this regimented program where breakfast is at 5, 6, whatever. No, no, no. If you want to eat breakfast, fine. If you don't, fine. If you know, because you leaving here going into your real world, your real environment. So we steward them, STEWARD, steward them in the direction that they are wanting to go. When we see you walking toward a ditch and we know it's full of moccasins, then we will warn you. But the ultimate decision has got to be up to you, because it's just like being in the Garden of Eden. God said, this tree you can freely, you got free reign to this one. But if you do this one, the consequences will be. And so we take that approach. We do not put up signs saying, and we've had members of parole board years ago ask us, come and say, not at this particular location. And then we've had some come to this location and say, you don't have up a sign or exits or whatever. Well, you don't have up an exit sign in your natural homes you live in. You bought the house, you know where the front, everybody else doesn't have to know. Only the people that dwell in the home need to know where
Mm.
all of this is. I mean, you just so I think we're doing it wrong. And I think that's been the success has been the people that have come through here that made the decision, no more. I'm moving forward, no turning back.
I hear you. Well, honestly, you guys have figured out that formula, and I know you sticking with it. And I know you're proud of all the people that come through there. It is an amazing, amazing place, and it is peaceful, and there's serenity surrounding it. And so I'm just really glad that you are there, and you and Frederick are there doing the work. So to close us out, I just want you to let people know how they can contact REACH Foundation, how they can donate, how they can support all of the work that you're doing.
They can contact, well, one, if you know Arthur Blank, who is the founder of the Arthur Blank Foundation, he
Mm.
has some property in the state of Mississippi that we need a warehouse. It has been vacant probably over 10 years now. People have moved out of this community. We can take that facility, the entire grounds, and keep children off the street. We can stop crime in the neighborhood. We need that building to help us facilitate that work in order to improve the living conditions for a lot of these kids so that they don't become prison statistics, that they won't have to go to prison. But they can reach us on our website, www.rechfoundationms.org. Again, that's www.rechfoundationms.org. And our telephone is 601-918-2970 or 601-720-7483. And our email is rechpauline@gmail.com.
Well, Pauline, thank you again so much for having this discussion with me today. I love you. I am so happy you are doing well. And please tell Frederick I said hello. You guys keep up the good work, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll see you soon.
Hopefully,
That
I
would be
would love
nice
that. That would be nice.
to see you in person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.